We have our proper introductions on the way, and chat did load. Actually, sick on Firefox, so that's cool that works. But NeoPlanet coming up. We'll see you in a second. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome. You might not recognize me, but I am... You know what? That's a terrible introduction. Guys, fuck it. This is Rifkin. I've got a brand new microphone, and I know I sound hella weird, but I hope you are enjoying the higher quality that comes from a studio condenser microphone. Because, of course, the one thing I'm liking most about this is I can play around and do some crazy shit with it, but guys, getting into this match... Spawning here in the upper right corner of the map, representing Team mYi, it's our red Zerg player, Ivaner. And his opponent in the lower left corner of the map, playing for NrS, it's our green Protoss player, it is Underdark. And, yeah, just getting into this game properly. PvZ, it's still a best of 1, not a best of 3, so these guys do have to play exceptionally carefully, but... Not Underdark. He says, screw it. I've got Ivaner on my ignore list. I'm going to just try and piss him the hell off with a proxy gate. Now, is this... Oh, I think this is a 10 gate. Sorry, I should have been watching that. I was too busy trying to make sure everything was working. But if this was a 10 gate, this is actually really cool. I wish you would have put this in the natural. But you can do... you can crit out 3 Zealots. You could try and rush out a Stalker. I mean, these are tactics that Ivaner is going to see coming, though, sadly. Or not sadly for him, but... Good for Ivaner, sadly for Underdark, because the Overlord will scout this. Now as a Zerg player, all this is really going to do, the only mindset that this will change for Ivaner is I'm not going to take my hatchery nearly as early. Whether he spines up, we'll have to see. He's going to go for gas instead, so a really good decision, because once Stalkers get in the field, if you don't have speedlings, there's no way to really deal with them, not effectively at least. Now, Underdark, I want to point out, guys, this isn't your typical proxy gate. By the looks of things, he's actually not going to go for the Stalker. He might just follow this up with a Forge Expand that becomes so typical. In fact, it looks exactly that's what he's going to do. Now, I've actually talked about this in recent broadcasts. I brought it up for Nurtio versus Stardust. It was shown first to me for SCA Lucky versus FXO Lucky, but I really love this tactic as a Protoss player. Because what you do is you set the game up. Like, once this is all done with, once Ivaner clears this out, this will be like a Forge Fast Expand opening, with the difference of being Ivaner, instead of having 3 hatcheries for free, will barely be on his natural. Now, chances are Underdark is going to do this in a way that allows him to get 3 Zealots off, hold position on the ramp, and that'll be that. But, oh, 4 links, he's got to get some good micro off both of these players. Look at that, Ivaner pulling back the weak links, the Zealot is kiting a little bit. And the second one comes here. So yeah, once you get 3 Zealots, you hold position in the ramp, the Queen's going to poke, sure, but the second the Queen is off creep, suddenly Zealots can actually go and take the Queen head on, even with the Lings of the field. And if you pick off a Queen this early when there's no hatchery, no natural, that kills larva production. Now, Ivaner is actually making another one behind this, a really intelligent choice, and now he's going to move out for his natural. Underdark, the reason I said I wish he had placed his proxy at the natural instead of down here, is you do the exact same thing that he's doing right now, except you have physical building blocking placement, and you can't throw down that hatchery right away. And if these Lings start chipping away at the gateway, suddenly you just bring the Zealots in to pick off the Lings. It's this sort of perfect setup to the beginning of the game here, but I want to point out Underdark never, or well, no, I shouldn't say never, he cut a couple probes to make this work, but his probe cutting was very minimal. He's got this wall off back at home, and he set himself up now to play the mid game a little bit ahead of Ivaner, opposed to if he had just gone for the Forge Fast Expand. Now, these Zealots are in the perfect position that's going to allow them to minimize the surface area in which the Lings can't connect, and as we see here, Ivaner trying to micro back, still taking some Ling losses, a little more than perhaps he wanted to. Rifkin, how do you say the SC2 player name who used to be on EG? LZ Gamer. Now, I'm sure this is a bit of a troll because everyone knows I'm Canadian and you're expecting me to say LZ Gamer, but when a Z is part of the name phonetically, that's when I'll go for it. That's why you say ZVZ instead of Z versus Z for like Zerg versus matchup. Like, we got a PVZ on the field here. It just, as much as I want to say that and my tongue naturally goes for it, I've trained myself at this point to say Z when it is appropriate. Now, Vonner has played this out perfectly. He did not overreact. He made enough lings to deal with this without making it too crazy. He got the speed out, but he did not dedicate himself to roaches, so he's not going to be forced to play off of one base. He gets here and he sees, oh, hey, it's that Forge expand, something so typical. Well, luckily, I already placed down my third hatchery. So, the difference in this game setup versus any other is for the mineral investment from Underdark. He did not exactly kill a ton of lings. He didn't kill queens. He didn't stop the hatchery. I really truly think Underdark could have opened a little bit better, but his goal was still accomplished where he delayed the natural. He delayed the third base, but not by very much. And Vonner and him are now squaring off in a slightly skewed, I guess, version of like a rather classical matchup. Now, Vonner, I want to point out, actually stopped gas in order to get all these extra minerals on the field so he can get those workers, he can get that hatchery, and he's got to be careful because Underdark has this pylon here. He has scouted it. I mean, the queen's heading up there, but the lings who are doing nothing outside the base should really go pick off that pylon because you never want to chance warp-ins. Like, what if he hasn't, but what if Underdark had a dark shrine behind this? The last thing you want are DTs warping on top of this base proximity to your own. So yeah, there we go. We'll clean that up. Some nice Overlord spread here out of my Insanity's Vonner as well. As we can see on the map here, in the mini-map, he's got a lot of vision of everything that can come out of the base. And this is a strange push coming out of Underdark. Now, he just threw down a ton of gateways, so it's going to allow him to put down some pressure if he gets that pylon up, but still. Zealot, Sentry, Mothership Core? A strange composition, to say the least. We'll see how this works out for him. Stargate coming out as well. So, I would love if this was Void Rays. If it's anything else, I'm going to be flabbergasted and confused as to why. I mean, there's no reason for it, but these lings, forget the Zealot of Honor, you got to go for that Sentry, man. That Sentry has a ton of energy on it. Get the probe even. Gets the probe. No more pylons will be placed down. So this is going to be the furthest you can reinforce. Really nice, because all Protoss players, when you go for that advanced push, you know, you throw pylons down behind it, because in a worst case, oh, hold the phone, it's going to be a Phoenix coming out of this. What, Underdark, what are you doing? Nothing bad, mind you. I think it'll be a Phoenix to clean up the Overlords, then hopefully we'll transition into Void Rays afterwards. But if he's going to go for the Phoenix bait into the Colossus Hydralisk Wars, it feels really late at this point, to the extent where Vonner doesn't need to worry about the Phoenixes because he can just flood lings. He's got more than enough already on the field. Now, of course, the 1 or 2 Phoenixes that are coming out early will be enough to pick off the Overlords scouting around the base, but this is the push coming out of Underdark, and it's not a terribly overwhelming one. The Sentry's got some energy on it for force fields, but only a couple. We got Banelings here on the field. They don't have speed. Yeah, and there's the Mothership Core. Okay, so a really awkward push coming out of Underdark, but actually behind this, Vonner's actually supply blocked, and he's not currently making more Overlords. This was, of course, the 2 Overlords down here that were picked off. A third one going to go down as well. So 4 Overlords coming on the way to replace us now. Actually, really scary here. There's a lot of Sentries. These Banelings, they want to connect. They want to tear down this wall, but they won't be able to because the Sentries are there. He can also pick them up with the Phoenixes. I'm a little shocked he's not actively trying to pick them up with the Phoenixes because, of course, there is no anti-air on the field. And, oh, no, poor Vonner. Gonna lose those Banelings. They do splash on the Warp Gate at least, so it's not for naught, but these 3 Banelings could easily be picked off if Underdark is paying attention. Yeah, gonna pick them off, and Ling's still just roaming around the field. Now, this is kind of special number of Lings you can get. Oh man, that's actually a really sick split off by Vonner, but even if your opponent goes for Colossus, you can flood Ling and Fester and win. It's not something you should do, and it's not a strategy that will ever really work for you, but it's something that can work, and I've seen it happen in recent days because it is an older strategy, and much like all the old strategies with Heart of the Swarm, they're starting to be revived. Now, Vonner's slacking here on his Larva injects, but only by seconds, so not really a big deal. He's got a lot to look at for on the field as these Phoenixes are going to start cleaning up these Overlords. He needs to pull them all back because, frustratingly so, getting supply blocked as a Zerg player, you don't want to be spending it on that Larva on Overlords. You want to be spending it on units. You want to have Corruptors, Mutalisks, something coming out on the field, and it looks like, yeah, he's going to be sticking with the melee upgrades, so he's going to be flooding with Lings. If he matches this with Mutalisks, that would be really groovy. He may go for Corruptors though if he's anticipating Colossi, but I would hope that's not the case because he's actually not done too much scouting. He doesn't know what the tech path of his opponent is. He's just seen the Phoenixes on the field, but chances are, and I would imagine, he can guesstimate, you know, oh look, there's Phoenixes. I've played this matchup 700 times. You're going to follow us up with Colossus later on. But right now, we've just got this massive sentry push. Not even matched up with Immortals or anything crazy. Evander just scouted that as well. And if he gets some Mutalisks on the field, sentries are not exactly anti-Mutalisk units. They got the Guardian Shield, which is really nice and effective, but everything else on the field, a low number of Stalkers does not contend well with Mutalisks. And oh man, again, the Overlords are being cut out here from underneath Evander's feet. Lings are morphing into Banelings. We got this army setting up good to go, but with the force fields, it's going to be almost impossible to connect these Banelings. This could go very poorly. ABC song. Yes, I do say Z at the end of it, even though I shouldn't, but that part's actually ignorant. So we can go into that during the break, guys. But Slings, look at all these Banelings. Evander, he wants to get out of his own base. He needs to be able to push here. How many units on the field exactly? 21 Banelings, 89 Zerglings, but there's too many damn force fields, I fear. And these sentries all have almost full energy, and oh man, Evander needs to come in from behind, cut through the middle of the map, something, anything, because a head-on fight will not go his way. He's just got to sacrifice these queens. No, Evander, you're being baited into a fight. He gets Banelings around the force fields, but they can't quite connect to anything, and oh my god, Evander loses so many units trapped inside this very perfect nest. This trap that Underdark has sprung, but oh, as we see here, a nice amount of Banelings do connect there at the very last second, but it's not enough to stop this. The army supply is not looking good for Evander. He doesn't have roaches on the field. He's relying on Banelings and Zerglings, and he really needs something else, anything else, but he can't afford to make it, is the big catch to this. Setting up to come in from 3 different angles. The timing not quite right. Baneling speed finishes, but oh my god, can they connect? They're going to go off on the Stalkers. I've never seen Stalkers die to Banelings before today, but we just did. Some Immortals, a small handful of Stalkers. Actually, if Evander just reinforces on pure Zerglings, he should be okay, but the problem is he needs a lot, and he might not have the larva to do this because he had his queens pulled on the front lines. This is really not looking good. More Stalkers coming in from behind, but of course Stalkers, despite having Blink, don't fare too well with Zerglings. Neither do Immortals, but the problem is Evander, as we see here, is coming in a little bit at a time. Drones now being pulled, but it's one of those things where if Evander could have had 3 extra injects, maybe, just maybe, he could have held this, but pulling workers is never a good sign. We got all the queens being pulled at this point, and I think Underdark, with some very perfect sentry nets, might just take this game. I'm really sad to see Evander get knocked out like this. I was really looking forward to cast more of his games today because I love me some my insanity, but folks, this is looking pretty grim. Yeah, last couple lanes get popped. We got he's still in this. I mean, Evander's not giving up yet, but despite having the macro hatcher, despite having the extra queens, this is so many Stalkers to deal with at this point. 30 fuelings are about to pop. This is that giant wave I was talking about, but oh, blinking into the mineral line, going to absolutely limit the surface area. No adrenal glands, no +3 weapons, stuck on only 2-2. Banelings morphing in. The Zerglings rushing from the south. Immortals, while they don't do bonus damage versus Lings, still do a ton of damage to Zerglings, guys. And with the last couple drones going down, good game is called.